Hi, Jason.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I had to, my computer's acting up funny, so I had to dial in. So that's why it took me.
Okay, no worries. I'll send you a text when everyone's here and when we're ready to start.
Josh will not be here.
There.
Did you hear?
Josh will not be.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the Rye Town Park Commission meeting of June 20th, 2023. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have some pinch hitters today. Debbie, please call the roll.
Yes. Commissioner Jackson? Here. Commissioner Hurd?
Here.
Commissioner Klein?
Jason. Oh, boy.
There he is.
Acting Commissioner Fritz Valenka?
Here.
President Zuckerman?
Here. Mayor Cohn is having a procedure done, and he is not joining us today. Commissioner Klein, Mayor Klein of Rybrook, is appearing via Zoom pursuant to state and local law, and will be a voting member. And Commissioner Valenka is here representing the village of Portchester, and Fritz is very familiar with us, having been the mayor for a number of years and on this commission. May I have the minutes of May 16th, 2023? May I have a motion to approve and a second, please?
I'll make the motion. Second?
You're late, Jason. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Public comment on non-agenda items. Are there any members of the public here who wish?
I didn't get my phone on to check if there was anything on Facebook.
It is highly unlikely. We can come back if there are.
Thank you.
Capital projects update. First, let me go over what our proposed consolidated funding applications for 2023 are. These are due, I believe, July 28th, and we have our grant writer writing them with the assistance of our engineer and architect. The first one is for the bathhouse interior ADA renovation. We have applied for this previously and were granted this along with others, i.e. the ramps and the path, in 2018. We have not been able to actually finish the interior of the bathhouse. The approximate cost is $750,000, and this is a 50-50 match. Just for the information of the commission. We don't have to vote on anything tonight, but we will at the next meeting. And I am also pursuing additional funding from the County of Westchester for this. And we are obviously Millennium Strategies, which is our grant writer, is going forward with the paperwork. All of these projects, by the way, do not result in an immediate outlay from the park and or the city of Rye or the town of Rye, because we have usually 5 years to complete it. So we have plenty of time to allocate the local funding if that is necessary. As a matter of fact, as I say, we are finishing the windows in the bathhouse, which I'll get to in a minute, and that was as a result of the 2018 application, and this is 2023.
Gary, just for clarification, assuming we were to get funds from the county as well, that would be used to offset
The local share.
the local share?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're doing that as we went over last time with the windows, because with all the work that we did previously, we have $100,000 of CDBG money, which is federal, and $83,000 left over from the state. parks. So we're using that money to offset each other in doing the windows, which came out to be 192,000. And since I'm mentioning that, as Emily pointed out, you asked last month, well, why is there a $17,000 gap?
I was just reminded of how it hurt my brain to figure that one out last night.
Okay, so if we do a complete match, that leaves a $17,000 gap. Debbie has been in contact with county planning. There are communities that are not using up all of their CDBG money. So we are asking them, because the original estimate for the window replacement was less than the actual cost of the replacement, we're going to ask them to use other communities' unused CDBG money to increase the $100,000 grant to such an amount that would equal the total bid amount of $192,000. We'd have to match that 50-50. Actually, the number would be $50,000 extra, approximately. We'd have to match that 50-50, but we already have to match the 17, so it would not be, it would be actually the difference between the 17 and $50,000, which is what, 33,000? If my math is correct in my head. So
I think it's probably the, since we only have 83,000 of New York State funds, we still have to match the federal 100,000 from CDBG.
well,
So
that's the
it would be,
17,000.
it would be the 17
Yeah.
plus any additional grants that were awarded by CDBG.
Right, well, we'll figure it out, but it's not a super large amount of money to get the amount of work done. And the work that we're doing is in conjunction with the windows and as part of the exterior, which if we went out for an exterior grant, as we did last time, which we did not get, then we would actually need to do less work. So,
Sorry, just to clarify, because I want to, there, as you mentioned, we talked about this at a recent meeting. I'm looking at our capital projects budget, our capital budget, excuse me, where we have the bathhouse window replacement project proposed at, and I think we passed this at 113,000. And then the cost was actually 192.
yeah, but I think the 113 was just for the windows, if I recall, not the labor. What we submitted to CDBG, I think, was, when we had to do that, was 140-something thousand, correct, Debbie? Correct. And the total price is 192.
So when we had our conversation last month, were we talking about 192?
Yes,
Yes, okay, okay.
okay. So, anyway, so that's the bathhouse. The other thing we're applying for is the bathhouse shower retaining wall, an approximate cost of $450,000, also a 50-50 match. And we all know that's falling down and is necessary. We have also applied for the same work to the federal government. Congressman Bowman, Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, and the memo talks about that a little bit further down, which I'll get to when we discuss the federal grant application, but this is for the parks application through preservation. Lindsay, you had a question?
Sorry, and excuse my brain, I'm thinking for two. This historic, the retaining wall, we still don't have, we're losing those parking spots, correct?
Correct.
So we're losing that revenue as well,
Steadily, correct.
steadily.
I think of all the things we
And
have.
the showers as well, or we have the portable,
No, they're not portable. We have the new permanent
the new
showers.
permanent showers.
Yeah, that the Friends graciously donated. So we most likely will not replace the showers that are on that wall.
Okay, it's just fixing the wall itself.
Just the, yeah, and it's not just that, it's the wall that goes from the bathhouse to the to the right angle and then across parallel to the path. So that would all be removed and put up and restored.
And about how many spots is that?
I'm going to say 6, but I'm going to ask Russ.
And that's,
Russ, do you happen to?
Yeah, it's plus, it's 10.
10 spots.
and then, are any of those spots handicap?
Well, they were,
They were.
but they've
handicap.
been replaced. We took 10 spots from typical parking for disabled parking.
And those are closer to the entrance.
Yeah, all of the,
Right.
They're
All-
along the center island.
all of the spots along the center island are now handicapped, as well as the spots that are down by Dearborn Avenue.
No, because we put in the handicap, the beach mats and everything, and then to not have the handicap parking to accommodate.
We have the handicap parking. We haven't lost any spots. The third program that we're going to apply for is the Green Innovation Grant Program, which we have applied for before. The updated estimate, and there is the engineer's proposal attached to our agenda. The new estimate is $2 million, and that's a 75-25% match. So that is a considerable number, and one of the reasons that I'm bringing this forward now is so that we on the commission can discuss whether or not we should go forward with this grant, since it's such a high local match. Even though it's 75-25, 25% of $2 million is still $500,000, split between the city and the town. Just for information, it is my intention to also seek money from the federal government. I had a meeting actually at the park for about an hour with Congressman Bowman, who was very enthusiastic about doing repairs to the park. And was talking about green infrastructure and the Recovery Act and the Infrastructure Act, and advised that there might very well be money available to do this work. We have to also talk to the county. Fritz, I think you're also familiar with the county stormwater program. There may be money available from the county as well to do this work. And since this is state money, county money and federal money would be an offsetting local match. So those are the three programs that I propose that we apply for.
Can I ask a question about the parking lot? I appreciate the effort on the commission's part to go with the green solution. Do we know, like, longevity? I was just hearing that, like, it's like a half-life of a regular paved lot. I don't know if that's the case, so I just was curious about the longevity of the green parking lot, the pervious.
I don't have an answer to that, but I am going to be meeting with our engineers tomorrow morning, and it's certainly a question I can ask. Of all of the times that we've been discussing porous pavement, I've never heard that the project life was half.
Half, okay. I
Or
mean,
even close to
I'd be
that.
curious just to know what longevity is for, like, the green parking lot, and also what the cost would be of just a regular, like, if we just repaved the whole thing.
Right, so we have priced that in previous
Right,
capital budgets, as I'm sure you're going to remember. But given the new inflationary environment, we would, in order to give you an accurate number, I'd have to look at those
yeah,
numbers
in my
again.
mind, I have it in the olden days as like $1 million. Does that sound like what you would remember? Like half?
Here, yeah, in fact, the last time we went, this application is different from the previous one because, as you're aware, the previous one was denied.
Right.
One of the reasons that it was denied is that it wasn't They said green enough. There wasn't enough green stuff in it.
Okay.
So
there's more
adding
green.
more green stuff means adding more money.
I have it up on the board.
Right.
That's the new one?
That's the new one. That's the new proposed grant, which has considerably more porous pavement in it, considerably more rain gardens to capture and filter the runoff before it goes into the sound.
Is that all porous there in like in between the green, where the green circles are?
Yes.
All the white? I can't
Yes,
tell.
the lighter, yes, the lighter color. You have,
I have it, I'm
oh, you
looking
do,
at it, yeah.
right.
I just know maybe Jason could even speak to this. I know from work that they're doing a lot as far as the longevity of these porous surfaces. They're adding Kevlar to the mix to increase the longevity.
You would know that, Madam DPW person.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, from my experience with these, a lot of times it's actually, people are saying, I mean, anecdotally, people are saying that the porous pavement may actually last longer because especially, I mean, maybe less on flatter areas, but where there's any kind of slope, you're getting the water kind of sheet flowing across the impermeable surface and almost eroding out the asphalt. Whereas this, it kind of just seeps in. The asphalt is sticking around longer.
So,
But again, that's anecdotally, I claim to be no sort of asphalt scientist.
Just for everybody that is watching or not able to see this diagram, I mean, it looks like this isn't like 100% porous surface. It's a lot of
That's correct.
repaving.
yeah, there is. I think the audience can see that up there, right, Deb?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's on their screen.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so, you know, and let's just be clear. Whatever happens, this would be, even if we didn't, you know, do green infrastructure, which I think we're committed to do if we can, that parking lot has to be repaved.
Yeah.
And we're not going to get $1 from any government, county, state, or federal, unless we make a green infrastructure improvement. For the park commission to pave the parking lot in asphalt, it would have to be entirely funded by the city and the town.
That's a good point, Gary.
So even though it's, you know, to say that the local match is high at some point, and I don't know what that point is, but at some point, the commission is going to have to say, we have to repave the lot. And then, you know, we're going to have to pay for it without any grant funds. So let me move on. I mentioned the member item request from Congress. There are two. One is the bathhouse shower retaining wall and again, it's an estimated cost of $450,000. We applied for this to for CFA previously, and the estimate was about 405. So inflation has increased that somewhat. Along with that, as part of the same application, it's to replace the park's crumbling seawall cap and guardrail. That goes from Dearborn Avenue all the way to the Barley Beach House. And that is estimated a little over $800,000. Those would be funded by the federal government through member items if we should get it. And we have been advised that those requests were looked upon favorably by our senators and congressmen. We applied a year ago. They did not advance at all. This year, the projects have been submitted to the appropriate appropriations committee in the Senate and the House, and we're hoping this goes forward. There will be no match should we get the grant, assuming, of course, that the actual construction cost comes within the parameters of the grant that we received. Let me just talk about grants that have already been approved, but not yet commenced.
On to that, I just looked up the last time we priced a conventional parking lot, Emily, it was in 2021, and the total parking lot came to 1.3 million. It was, you're correct in remembering the 1 million, but that was for 3/4 of the parking lot, and then that final quarter was more, so came out to 1.3.
All right. So we have what it's called the low cap grant from the New York State Senate through Senator Shelley Mayer, and that's for the beach level restrooms. That's already been approved. Of course, the final, that's in the amount of $250,000. We had previously applied to that through the CFA, through the Local Government Waterfront Revitalization Program. The estimate a year ago was about $233,000. The architect thinks that it's relatively consistent at this point, although we won't know until we go to bid, but hopefully we'll keep under $250,000, and if we go over it, it hopefully will not be very much. The same thing with the SAM grant from the New York State Assembly through Assemblyman Steve Otis. That's for the pavilion roof replacement. That's for both pavilions. And again, it's a $250,000 grant. The actual cost, again, will be dependent on a final bid. The pavilion roof replacement, we're hoping, will be approved and started prior to the end of the summer. And the beach level restrooms, actually, we're planning to go out to bid by the end of July. So hopefully but certainly by, if all goes well, by next beach season, we will have both the roofs and the beach level bathroom operating and in place. We mentioned earlier the Parks grant for the bathhouse. And we mentioned the window replacement, which is now estimated at $192,000. Not estimated, that's the construction bid award is $192,300, and our share we've put down at $17,500. Emily, that's what we had just discussed. That work I have titled shortly to commence. I've issued an order to proceed, told the contractor to hold up briefly until after the July 4th weekend. We don't want a lot of construction stuff during the busy weekend. And the contractor is Lou Larissa, who's done a lot of work for both the town and the Park Commission in the past. And construction period should be just a couple of months. I'm hoping for even faster than that. Recently completed is our beach replenishment, which was funded through a FEMA grant. That was a beach replenishment because of Hurricane Ida. We got a grant for $260,000, and anybody who's been to the beach in the last week will see the new sand. It's beautiful sand. It's better sand than we had before, actually, and we have pictures up there. One is me with the park director, the other is with me and the contractor who installed the mats, which I'll get to in a moment. But the sand was done in two different tranches, if you will. One, the south part of the beach from the middle ramp to Dearborn Avenue, and the second from the middle ramp north to the lifeguard shack. And it was beautifully done. And from what we don't have the final figures, but it looks like we're about $15,000 under. It's about $15,000, $245 to
No, I expect, at the moment, we're somewhere between $45,000 and $30,000. Under budget.
Okay. And we will make a decision because we didn't use all the sand that we thought we would use. I think we thought we'd use about 1,400 cubic yards. We used about 1,000, I believe. And so we can do it again next spring if the beach needs it. Otherwise, from what I understand, we can, and Debbie is the pro on this, we can use it for other items that had caused destruction from Hurricane Ida.
One of the benefits of that is if we do use it in 2024, we won't have to spend what is probably going to be at least $30,000 to re-level the beach for the 2024
Right.
season. We'll be able to save those funds by using this grant money instead.
Well, we can make a decision because if we have other needs, such as the walk, the promenade, I should say, or something else that was harmed by Hurricane Ida, we could do that because we would have to spend that money anyway if we were going to do it. So whether you spend it on the beach or spend it on the promenade, it's still money that has to be spent. But we will have, let's say, $30,000 available to spend, which is good. The other thing I wanted to touch on in the end, and at the end, is the CDBG funding for our beach level mats and our sand wheelchairs. There's a picture, as I pointed out, of me on the mat with the contractor, whose name is Access Mats. Of all the things that we've done at the beach, putting those mats in has probably gotten the most rave reviews. We've had people come up to me, to Russ, to Josh, saying what a great thing this is. It was installed primarily for people of limited access, such as, handicapped in wheelchairs or walkers who would have a difficult time getting from the end of the accessible ramp to the water's edge. However, it is also used by parents wheeling baby carriages. Lindsay, that will be you in a few months. And parents hauling toys and wagons. I think we've all seen red wagons full of toys being hauled through the sand to the beach for the kids. And it's easy to walk on. Even people who are fully abled find it difficult to walk on the sand, especially, it's soft and very fine. And having these mats enables anybody to get to the beach easily. The other part of the grant was for the sand wheelchairs that will enable people who, once they get to the beach, can maneuver on the sand. We've already had a couple of people who in fact, one person from the city of Rye had contacted us because she had her own sand wheelchair and wanted to know how she could. In fact, was it you who told me about it, or no? Catherine Parker did.
Yeah.
Catherine Parker did, and wanted to be able to access the beach. And we advised her, number one, yes, you can use your sand. And she had trouble because it's big, and she had trouble getting into the car. So we said, number one, we will have access to the beach on the mat, and number two, we will have sand wheelchairs for you to use right here. And Debbie and Russ and the people from, who's it, Hellman?
Yes, Michael Hellman.
People from the disability community and the Parks Foundation are working with us to establish a protocol. Do you have to call up? Do you have to reserve the chairs? Do we have to have an aide with you with the chair and things like that? So that's all being set up, and hopefully, Debbie, that'll be done in fairly short order.
We're well along. Yes.
Good. Excellent. And all of this, of course, is in addition to the work we've done that we're familiar with. But while I'm talking about it, things such as the roof on the bathhouse, that was completed a number of years ago at the beginning of our administration. The accessible ramps that were done, the path that goes from the bathhouse to the ramps, along with the ticket booth, and of course the seawall, the real seawall along Dearborn Avenue that was funded by FEMA. So all of these things happening are about to happen, or we hope to happen. So that is my update. Comments from the commissioners?
Yes, I just have a couple quick comments. Sorry, I'm just looking over the pavilion roof replacement. The cost, the share is 0 of 100, so that means we pay nothing? Or we pay 100?
No, that's, we pay nothing.
Nothing, right, okay.
We think that the estimate, that's why if you'll notice on it, we think, and we don't know.
85%, I see.
Right, that's what we think is gonna come out based on the latest estimates. We're not gonna know anything until it goes out for bid, the bids come in, and we pick the lowest responsible bidder. And the lowest responsible bidder may be less than the 250, or it may be, more than the 250. But we're not gonna know that. But we do know that we have the $250,000 to do the necessary work.
Okay, I'm just looking at the capital budget again, and I didn't see the pavilion on the major project list. And I just don't know if that's because we haven't done it yet, or it's not gonna cost us any money, or
I
what?
think it was because of no money.
Okay. Anyway, I just wanna say, you know, you guys are aggressive in pursuing grants, and I think it's fantastic, because look at how successful we've been. You know, as we carefully worked with, the town and the city to come up with a capital budget that was, you know, amenable to everyone. We're working on timing everything so that it works with the City of Rye budget as well. I just wanted to underscore that, you know, these are all important capital projects at the park. They will need to be approved by the city council at the time of funding. And so I guess what I know we're not voting right now, but I'm just reiterating the point that, you know, when the representatives from the city vote to apply for these grants, that it doesn't necessarily mean that we're voting to accept them, because that's a budgetary question in that year.
Well, the town of Raleigh has the same process.
Yep.
We have to appropriate money, and if we bond it, we have to approve the bond. So, you know, the problem is that unless we apply for it, we're not gonna get it.
Right.
We have applied for many things that we have received. We have also applied for many things where we have been denied.
Yep. No, and I think, you know, and it's, as you pointed out with the, which one was it? The windows that we applied for in 2018, and we're just spending in 2023, you know, these have usually a 5-year window. And so we have the ability to stagger them, which is helpful. But
I
anyway.
think that's an important thing. I mean, some of the things we got done quickly, like the ramps, we went into construction fairly soon, you know, after we got the grants, depending on how available the money is, et cetera. And we've been parceling out to, the commission made a decision early on as to what the priorities would be. And that's why we did the ramps first. If you recall, you know, we had somebody who fell on the ramps and sued us, et cetera. So those things, you know, had to be done first, and we're going along. The wheel is turning, and, you know, if we don't get a grant one year, then we apply either to a different program, or we reapply to the same program.
Yep.
Just for the information of not only the commissioners, but the public. Whenever we get turned down for a grant, we have what they call a postmortem. We go to the agency, why didn't we get this grant? And sometimes they make some very useful comments. For example, on one of the grants, the economic development people, Red Sea, had 20 points to give. They only gave us 15. Why didn't they give us the other 5? So Debbie and I have a meeting in a couple of weeks with the representative from Red Sea to show him the park and to see if we can get those extra 5, because we were told if you had gotten those extra 5, you would have gotten the grant, because they scored on a points basis. So as I say, I have brought down, I think I mentioned this, the regional director for parks, state parks. I've brought down the regional representatives from Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand's office. Congressman Bowman graciously came himself. You know, whenever can, because my feeling is that it's nice to put the application on paper, and Millennium does a great job. And before we did Millennium, I forgot her name. Who's our grant writer?
Well, do you mean Helen Thurston?
Helen did a great job, and you know, we've had a lot of people writing a lot of grants, but it's on a piece of paper, and sometimes we have pictures. I think there's nothing better than bringing the people who are part of the decision process to the park. This is what we've done. We show them how competent we are to get things done, and this is what we need. Can you help us? And that's what we try to do. Okay, any more questions? Jason, up there, you have any questions, comments?
No questions. I think, you know, from a Village of Rybrook standpoint, this is all pretty, you know, straightforward in seeing what you're applying for. And again, I would echo the statement that it's great that that the town is being so aggressive with the grant.
And I thank everybody, because it's not just the town administration, it's the commissioners, you know, who have to approve it. And it's also the Rye City Council and the Rye Town Council who ultimately have to approve the funding. So I know that the Village of Portchester and the Village of Rybrook don't have any skin in the game, but your opinions are very, very welcome.
I'd just like to say, the commission for 2 years, I'm looking at what you're applying for, and these are much-needed items that will improve Rye-Town Park. Hopefully, when the time comes to vote on it for both the Rye-Town and Rye City, you prioritize these projects and get the needed funds, the matching funds to get some of these projects completed, because I think they're excellent applications and they will improve Rye-Town Park greatly.
Thank you. Thank you, Fritz. Your comments are always appreciated. Next item is a discussion and possible resolution authorizing the Park Commission to pay for anticipated police overtime costs associated with the July 4th holiday. We have a resolution. A copy of Commissioner Copey's memo is attached. The original request was to ask for payment of up to $18,000 based on the number of police and the number of hours that they anticipate in the park. Now, this has never been done before, and I think my knee-jerk reaction, and I think maybe some of the other commissioners other than those from the city of Rye, was, why should we pay this? Well, there are associated costs. Let me just skip ahead. After this summer and going into the next budget season, we're going to look at what the actual cost might have been, because we don't really know what's needed, if so many police officers are needed and for how many hours they would be needed, and we're going to look at that. I had a discussion today with Mayor Cohn, and we discussed the various aspects and decided, and by the way, this payment is not in our budget, so this is extra. And we decided that, as a compromise, the Park Commission would pay up to $9,000 towards the extra police costs, and if there are any. And that's how we've settled it. I don't know if anybody else will have any comments, but I think that's reasonable. I don't think we should be fighting over it. I don't want to be in a position where, first of all, I know that if there's an emergency, the Rye City Police Department will come, they will do their duty, and they will take care of business.
What was the genesis of this request? Did we request additional police coverage, or?
We did not. This came from Safety Commissioner Copey's assessment of the need.
Yeah, and in all fairness, I know Debbie had a meeting with City Manager Greg Usry, and there are costs associated with the park. The park pays some of the salaries of the town employees, such as Debbie and some of the clerical staff that do work on the park. So, some of the costs of the town of Rye for park services are in fact paid by the park. So I think it's equitable that some of the services that the city provides should also be paid, especially if they're extra services. Not looking that this is going to be an occurrence where the Park Commission pays for the 20% of the cost of the Rye City Police Department. But I think the July 4th is the biggest weekend, and if there are added associated costs, I think that it's equitable that we work out a methodology to do that.
Yeah, just a couple comments. My understanding of this, because it does seem like a sudden, like a new request, obviously it is. Commissioner Copey is relatively new. I think, what did he start, 2 years ago maybe?
That sounds about right.
We've had, several COVID summers, so there hasn't been sort of standard, I don't know, maybe they've even been bigger than in previous years, but the 4th of July weekends. But he has, really, he's trying to standardize everything. There was a big fight at the park, I guess, that almost required the mutual aid a couple weeks ago.
That was teenagers at night, well after the park was closed.
Right, sure, but, so I think that, and then there was, just additional barley events that are drawing larger and larger crowds. And listen, I mean.
Even I think they pay for the police.
They pay for
Yeah.
private security, right? Private security?
They immediately agreed to pay overtime to Rye Police for off-duty officers
Great.
as soon as the topic was raised.
Okay, fantastic. So anyway, there is more focus on stuff going on at the park, I think, for Commissioner Copey. And the 4th of July weekend does draw a huge crowd. And this is sort of his safety protocol. So we will be able to assess this after this
Yeah,
weekend.
well, that's the idea.
But he will mandate what he thinks is a required safety standard for the city. So, we'll see how it goes and we can talk about it afterwards. But I appreciate the effort of the town to split this with the city, and I think, that's a good.
It's not technically the town, it's the commission, it's the park budget.
Right. This wasn't in the City of Rye budget either, by the way. This is new to everybody.
Well, I would think that you would anticipate certain expenses through the police department for various events that would happen. But
I don't think that we've ever mandated this number of extra officers at the park for the 4th of July, but I'm not sure.
I think you've had that conversation, Debbie, with Commissioner Copey. I think his position is that they have provided, and our staff says they haven't provided, but I don't think it matters at this point. They're gonna provide what they feel is appropriate, and when we have again, I'll use the word postmortem review, we'll see, was that really necessary? because I think that there's a different staffing level which we can discuss, where you have an event that can be anticipated, like we have, 2,000 people come to the beach. That may require something extra. I don't think we can anticipate, however, a riot, which might require mutual aid from different communities as well. So, we'll have to take that. We'll just have to be reasonable about it. And, one thing that we all want to do is to keep the park open.
Yep.
We want to
And
keep the
safe.
park safe. We want it available to all the members of the public at a reasonable rate.
Yep.
Okay? So, that being said, may I have a motion and a second to approve the payment of up to $9,000 to the, for Rye City Police? For,
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I was gonna say, for the July 4th holiday. Second, okay, call the roll, please, Deb.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd,
Yes.
Commissioner Klein,
Yes.
Acting Commissioner Falanka,
Yes.
President Zuckerman.
Yes. Next item is a discussion. I had sent a memo to everybody, over a week ago, I think, regarding a policy change to provide free beach admission for residents on selected Tuesdays or Wednesdays. I picked Tuesdays. I spoke to Russ. He says both Tuesday and Wednesday are about equal in terms of low attendance. The reason I did this is that we received an email, not an email, a public notice from the county executive stating that there would be free bus service on the Bee Line throughout the summer months. And I thought that this would be a very good opportunity since the county was trying to provide a service for its residents who could not normally afford regular bus service, to make it free, to encourage busing rather than private cars, or making, I guess if you have a private car, you're going to take it, unless, of course, you can't get into the parking lot. But, people who would normally walk or take a bike, or who wouldn't go to the beach, I thought, why don't we try as an experiment on 4 Tuesdays to make the beach free, not parking, but make the beach free to residents. Okay, I've stopped speaking. Does anybody have a comment?
How do we determine residency?
The same way we do now. Which is we require proof of residency.
So in essence, a license with an address.
Yeah,
Correct. There's, Russ can speak more directly what else besides a license would be accepted, but yes, it's it's government issued documentation.
And how would they differentiate between Village of Mamaroneck, Town of Mamaroneck, and Village of Mamaroneck, Town of Rye?
They have a list of Rhinebeck streets.
Okay.
The problem that I see is that driver's license is not proof of residency. Because you could have moved, you could be anywhere, and you can be anywhere with a New York State driver's license. But to think that we can expect people to show up with a copy of a utility bill or a tax doc, or a local tax document or something like that. So we're just going to have to, if we're going to go forward with this, I guess we would just have to, I just guess put our faith in people's honesty,
Well,
and accept that.
well, I think, Russ, in this case, we're picking a very low busy day, a day that, low busy, that's not a word. one of the least busiest days. And we don't know what the weather's going to be. It may even be overcast or rain. And I'm proposing a Tuesday, July 4th is on a Tuesday, so I'm proposing the 11th, 18th, 25th, and August 1. And I don't think that people are going to go necessarily out of their way to try to forge documents. And I think most people who have a driver's license and are local will have their address. So, I kind of think that the driver's license for these 4 Tuesdays would be sufficient. And then we'll see what kind of traffic we generate. We may have no change.
I just wanted to point out that driver's licenses are not proof of residency, but I'm not opposing your proposal.
Okay.
But how do we do the daily passes when people do pay? Resident and non-resident? Or we don't?
If they're buying them at the kiosks, they're non-residents.
Yeah.
And that's if they want to pay cash. Or they can go up to the ticket booths, and then we have a park attendant there at the ticket booth.
And they would show their driver's license?
Right. Lindsay, I know where you're going with this, and you're right. They are most of the time they're showing some sort of they're showing a driver's license or some other proof of residency.
I think it would be two things.
Because non-residents can buy daily beach admission at the entrance booths as well.
So
As long as they're not using cash.
So I think that, this kind of serves two purposes. One, I think we give a break to people, residents who otherwise would pay on a day that's not busy. The park is not going to be packed on a Tuesday the way it is on a Saturday or Sunday. And we also will see elasticity of demand. If we see on these 4 days that there's very little change because of this policy, then we see there's very little change. If we see that all of a sudden, we increase the beach by 50%, then we have additional knowledge and we know what that elasticity is. And when we set our rates for next year, resident, non-resident, daily, et cetera, we'll have this additional piece of information that we could go by. Okay?
I like the idea. I am noting in the management report that we're down 40% over last year with our POS. That's basically tickets on site.
Yes, correct.
Beach passes.
Yes.
And it looks like our pay station revenue is down too. But it's hard to tell.
Well, don't forget that last year Playland didn't open the beach.
I know, I totally appreciate that fact. However, we use these numbers for for our budget, right? So I'm just worried.
Well, we certainly noted last year's numbers, but we gave them a hefty haircut in making a projection for what this year would be, because we knew that Playland would be open.
I'm sorry, Debbie. Didn't we try to, in acknowledging all those factors, COVID and also that Playland's beach and pool were closed last year, I think didn't we err on the side of using a 3-year average?
I think you're right. I think we took a 3-year average, not including last year, to try to come up with.
We took those factors into account, Emily.
I guess I love the idea. I'm cognizant of the fact that when we raise rates, we hear from communities like Portchester and others that they wish that we could keep the rates low. So I just don't want to be, I don't know if maybe 2 times a month is more I don't know what the impact would be, as you said, Gary, and we're not going to know until we try. But, I'm thinking about a Playland or something. They do a once a summer free day for residents maybe or something.
Another thing to consider when you're thinking about this is if, let's just say, more residents do come to the beach for free, right? Their beach admission is free, but they're still paying for parking.
Not if they take the bus.
Oh, that's true. Not if they take the bus.
I don't know what the bus routes are, but
There is no bus to Ride Town Park. The closest
Wait.
they can get is Playland.
okay, listen to me. I will, if we pass this tonight, I will call the county executive and ask him if it's possible for a bus route to be extended to Rytown Park from if they're going to Playland, then they can go over to Dearborn Avenue. And to tell you the truth, this is, you know, Emily, you mentioned Portchester, and that's exactly what I was thinking of, because the residents of Portchester who might want to use the park, who do not have other than public transportation, will be able to take advantage of this. Right, Mr. Mayor?
I mean, I don't mind it for residents just because they're the ones who support the park mainly to begin with, so
Yeah,
why not let them have a free day at the park? Their tax dollars support it.
that, I agree 100%.
There's another layer that Jeff Bringer just reminded me about, and that is that the restaurant, if their restaurant's business increases, 6% of that revenue falls to the park commission budget.
Good thinking, Jeff.
And hopefully people want to come back on other days.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just like playing devil's advocate, trying to
No,
have it all.
Emily, you're absolutely right. I've been to events, especially the last couple of weeks, you know, in terms of Juneteenth and in terms of a Pride day and month. And when people have come both to Crawford Park and Rytown Park, and in every case, some people have never been there. I didn't know this was here. This is gorgeous. I'm going to come back. You know, because once, and it's the same theory that I just stated in terms of getting our elected representatives or their staff here. You can hear about it, but until you've been to our parks, you don't know what you're getting. And people who come here, you know, when
Question, how you gonna advertise this? Are you gonna make a sign up prior to that first date that's free? You gonna put something in the newspaper?
We'll certainly do a campaign on social media. We found that to be very effective. Rytown Park has an enormous number of followers, and we will link to a number of organizations that also have tremendous exposure. If you want to place ads in the local newspaper, we certainly can do that. I would say also, wanted to offer that there is a comment from the public.
please comment.
This is from Anne Tyrone Verostra, who offers, it's possible that if people do come for free, they might get a pass in the future, which would bring more revenue.
Thank you, Ann. And that echoes what I think what Emily had just said, that you know, once you come to our parks, you want to come back. There are so many people who have not been to the park, especially residents also, and non-residents come. That once they come, they see. And I know that we're not offering this deal to non-residents, but residents sometimes want to bring friends. And I think it's a good experiment to do. I'm suggesting those 4 Tuesdays, unless somebody has a better suggestion. Put the calendar up. That would be the 11th, the 18th, the 25th of July, and the 1st of August. Okay? So, may I have a motion and a second? Jeff, you can put this up in writing, we'll put it in the minutes, but I have a motion and a second to offer free beach admission to residents on July 11th, 18th, 25th, and August 1st.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Debbie, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hurd,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Klein,
We don't hear you, Jason.
Okay, we got you,
No,
Jason.
thumbs up, okay, we got him. Thumbs up, yes for Jason.
All right, President Zuckerman.
Yes, thank you. Oh, you skipped Fritz.
Thumb up. Did
You forgot?
Acting Commissioner Felica.
I
Yes.
thought you had missed him. Okay. Okay, we have the management report was submitted. Do we have any questions about that? And the financial statement is set forth. We have a report regarding Pride Day. Debbie, were you going to handle that?
I think I will. Give me a second to start up the computer again.
You see this? Should I come out this way?
Yes.
I look like Joe Biden here.
There we are. So, on the weekend of June 10th, Rye-Town Park was the location for a community-wide Pride celebration, multi-stages. It started with a flag-raising ceremony first thing in the morning, at which a number of local public officials spoke, and it was followed by a parade up the promenade. And this is a class photo from the halfway mark, where all the marchers stopped to have their portrait taken with Congressman Jamal Bowman. Gary Zuckerman is there, right front and center. Amanda Timchak, of Rye Pride, was there. Father O'Hanlon was there. Town council person Pamela Jaffe was there, and a number of notables. And then we turned around, we marched back. Oh, and a number of really fabulous puppets. We stopped at the and unveiled the mural that is located currently on the wall at, let me see if the mural is here. There it is, Pride mural, which is located along the seawall. Excuse me. I
Really see
think
the
we
mural.
do. Let me see. Maybe in the other direction. Oh, that's the crosswalk at Crawford Park. There it is. So this is a mural that was painted by a number of young people from our community and neighboring communities who painted this beautiful work with the assistance of a local art teacher. And then that was followed by a Pride Fair, which was held in the Seaside Pavilion, with a number of wonderful performers and at least 22 local community groups as exhibitors, including the libraries of all three communities, and a story time, and authors. Desmond the Amazing, I think that's right, or Desmond is Amazing, read their book, and a number of wonderful performers. It was, the whole thing was attended by well over 150 people, and a huge success.
That it can't be overemphasized that the mural was painted by the high school kids, and they were from all the high schools in the area. Rye City, Blind Brook, Portchester, Rye Neck. And I think it was a beautiful thing. They all got together under the auspices of an artist, and they did this. And of all the murals that we've had, well, not all three, this is the third one. This is absolutely gorgeous.
That's great.
Okay. Does anybody have any, Debbie, did I forget anything?
No.
I always forget something.
As far as I can tell, you went methodically through the agenda.
In order,
Yes.
which is highly unusual. Okay, with that, any comments? Let's start with Jason. You have any comments, Jason? We can hear you. Thank you. All right. Emily?
No comments.
Lindsay?
Good. I
Fritz.
think everyone,
Thank you. And then I would say good night to everybody. We'll see you next month. And may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All
I will second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, good night.
Good night.